threw it 39.6%. So basically 40% of the time, and he generates a 43% whiff rate on that slider. So we're going to be seeing a lot of that pitch in 2025. Hopefully, again, he stays healthy, but he's a Florida.
There's connections between his father and Kevin Cash. So I just think it's a perfect marriage from that standpoint. And I didn't really...
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano,
bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
Whether you're a diehard fan who vividly remembers Longo's Game 162 just like us,
or you remember the early Devil Ray days of Wade Boggs or Carl Crawford,
we are here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this will be our 7th season covering the Rays daily.
In every season, they've gone to the playoffs, except for 2024, but you can still grab your favorite Rays gear, settle in, and subscribe to our Locked On Rays YouTube channel and other podcast platforms. You can also find us on X and Instagram at Locked On Rays.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
All right, Ulises, before we get into a couple topics du jour, we need to give the audience an update here, correct?
Update is coming through right now.
All right, 50 days since the bonds were approved and still no action taken as far as we know from the Rays. Stu Sternberg has made some comments. St. Pete Mayor Ken Welch has made some comments. I love how he always has to use a baseball analogy or multiple baseball analogies of, like, we're not done until there's the final out. Like,
I know.
His speechwriter, he's chat GPTing that up.
He is. Know? The dude's like, the prompt is like, but also make sure to include 2 baseball puns in this speech.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
30-minute speech, started and ended with a baseball analogy. Or
bookended. Yeah. Bookended with a baseball analogy. Also, guess what? I'm prepared with the 50. 50. The number 50. There are a ton of Rays legends, such as Chaz Rowe, Rene Pinto, Jan Mariñez. But seriously, folks, Charlie Morton, 2019, 2020. Grant Balfour, long time Ray, Grant Balfour 50. But I think this one takes the cake. Mr. James Big Game Shields.
Hard to beat a number 50 like that.
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty special and provided a lot of good memories for us as Rays fans. I think he could be a Rays Hall of Fame member one day.
I definitely think he should be the next one. But I should say, in a caveat, that was his rookie year in 2006 that he used number 50. Oops.
Oh, then he changed it after that. Okay, I understand. Yeah. So I don't care which number. As long as he gets in, I think it's critical, important, noteworthy, so on and so forth. All right. Speaking of pitchers, it's not quite as noteworthy as Ha-Seong Kim, but the Rays are making some moves in the lead up to spring training. This includes trading for Alex Faedo, who is a Tampa native, has a lot of connections to the area, a right-handed pitcher from the Detroit Tigers. And in return, the Tigers get minor league catcher Anderson Delgado plus cash. With that, the Rays also had to get rid of Ulises Basabe. So a lot of moving parts there as well. And actually, I think with the Kim signing, we didn't really get too deep into the weeds with this. They got rid of the left-handed pitcher that they had traded for, acquired, previously, like just a couple days beforehand. So that's a guy getting, DFA'd a couple times, and you got to find your next opportunity where it comes. But Alex Faedo, who several years ago or in somewhat recent memory was much ballyhooed as a prospect, a draft pick, a Florida Gator, a Tampa guy, Alonzo High School guy. And I think it's just a really cool story that he's coming home and settling into a comfortable, familiar environment. I think that can do wonders for him. Plus, I think that the Rays see something in him that they can utilize and deploy to their advantage. I mean, if you look at his numbers from 2024, moved from wanting to be a starter to a reliever, it seems like he might have stability in a bullpen role. And I think that's something that the Rays are going to try to attack and capitalize of best possibility. I know that, if you look beyond the ERA and the WHIP and some of those numbers, like the FIP doesn't look so good. There's some other metrics that don't really look so good, but I think there's some bones in place to have him be a contributing member of the ball club in 2025. Hey, it never hurts to have enough pitching, and boy, oh boy, do the Rays have a lot of that.
And let's be honest, I think I've grown, the last 4 years, if not even more, where, look, they could get a dude that sells solar panels and he's going to put up like a 0.9 whip. And, oh, by the way, that was actually a true thing. I don't, I don't doubt the Rays have had so much success just with building a bullpen, with getting guys to throw the ball, that really there's no look, but I don't like this stat, I don't like the peripherals in this picture. Like, we're past that point as Rays fans, that if the Rays are getting a guy that they think is going to be part of their bullpen, then so be it. I'm 100% behind it. Look, he's a guy that, oh, guess what? What's his primary pitch? Slider. Boy, don't the Rays love a slider? Yes, they do. He threw it 39.6%. So basically 40% of the time, and he generates a 43% whiff rate on that slider. So we're going to be seeing a lot of that pitch in 2025. Hopefully, again, he stays healthy, but he's a Florida guy. I mean, he has mentioned that, that he used to go to a lot of Trop games. So in my head, I'm like, well, did he ever go to a Tampa Yankee game?
Maybe a spring training game or a minor league game. I'm sure that I don't think where he was growing up was too much of a drive or too tough to navigate to get there and
Alonso High School
out. Yeah. So, there's connections between his father and Kevin Cash. So I just think it's a perfect marriage from that standpoint. And I didn't really dive too deep into it, but I think there is something to be said for, okay, you've had some ups and downs. You were the number 8 overall pick and, a top 50 prospect in baseball by, certain websites out there. And you really haven't quite lived up to the hype or the expectations. And not saying he will ever, meet or surpass those expectations, but I think coming to an organization like the Rays and then having the safety net or the confidence of your family, friends, and surroundings nearby, I think it's a comfortable home for him, more comfortable for him than, playing in Detroit or Boston or California, wherever it may be. So I would just say that's a little bit of an edge or a push. And, if you look at some of his savant numbers, the breaking ball looks like it plays pretty well. The whiff percentage, that plays. The barrel percentage, that plays. The hard hit percentage, that plays. So I think he, there's some other items that he needs to focus upon, like the walk rate. But I think there's some makings that he could, be a decent bullpen arm. I'm not saying he'll be a closer or setup man or anything like that, but there is a purpose for him to be on this roster. And
honestly, dude, the purpose, I like 2 things. The dude generates whiffs and he doesn't get hit hard. He in the hard hit percentage, 82nd percentile. So I think those are 2 incredibly good qualities to be a bullpen guy that the Rays would target. And again, talking about that slider, it's the trifecta for the Rays. So honestly, if I were to be a betting man, I'd put some green Skittles on this guy. I don't know where I would do that though, Kev.
Well, Ulises, one place you could go to is Prize Picks. We all know that. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes, for example, only needs to throw 1 yard to win. Pair that with one more correct pick, and you're cashing out. It's as easy as that, okay? So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB. For $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. So yeah, the thing with the new bullpen acquisition, not only the starting pitching rotation is getting pretty crowded. There's talks of a 6-man rotation to start the season, but the 7-man bullpen consists of Pete Fairbanks, Edwin Uceta, Garrett Clevenger, Manuel Rodriguez, Mason Montgomery, Mike Vassell, and Faedo. Montgomery is the only one of that relief group that can be optioned. So Faedo is out of option. So we know how the Rays like to shuffle, do the Durham shuffle, call a guy up, send him down, so on and so forth. I think the Rays are going to have to be a little bit more mindful of that unless they're able to utilize the old Phantom IL stint.
Right. So, this makes me think that they feel very comfortable in what they see in Alex. This makes me feel like, because I don't think it would be a great welcome tour orientation of like, yeah, we're going to have you for a month. And then the month comes in, it's May. You're like, hey, we need you to get a Phantom IL stint right here. Like, I think your ankle is a bit bothersome. Like, I don't think it would be such a good look to do that to a new guy. So I feel like that just means they're incredibly comfortable and putting this guy in the bullpen. You mentioned Vassell. I don't think we ever really got in depth, but he was a Rule 5 pickup by the Mets, if I am not mistaken. So yeah, I think those two guys maybe are like on the up and up, but you look at the rotation, you look at the bullpen, and you start thinking, well, they definitely can throw the pill, but how about that lineup? And with Kim, with Jansen, if Caminero is going to be Caminero from the Dominican, if Bilao can just give us 110 games and then do what he does when he's on the field, you put Yandy Diaz, you start thinking, can Josh Lowe be 2023?
Can Eloy Jimenez be previous iteration of Eloy Jimenez? It's happened before. Crazier things have happened where you sign a guy to a minor league deal with an invite to the big league camp, and not saying he'll go off, but provide some meaningful offensive opportunity for the Rays. So, we just wanted to touch. Yeah.
Before I get to like this, what this outlook might mean, how'd you feel about Basabe being DFA'd? I mean, was it like, didn't even like phase you? Were you like surprised that it was him? Like, how did you take that bit?
I would say it really didn't phase me. I know that he had struggled after going from the majors to the minors. I mean, the fact that he's only 24 years old, you would think that there might be a little bit more of a development curve for him. And you like the fact that he was versatile, but I mean, with the signing of Kim, pretty much all bets are off at that point. I mean, you wish that he could have had a larger taste at the big league level, but I think, we can loop him in with, the Vidal Brujans of the world where, sometimes you just can't crack it. You can't cut it, and you can't give everybody an extended shot with the big league club, and you have to shuffle things around a little bit. I mean, my thought is things would have to go desperately wrong if you were seeing, Basabe getting starting or meaningful action with the big league club. And plus, we talk about, I don't know if I'll have time to do it on today's show, but at some point talking about the prospects that are getting invites to spring camp, and who is one of those guys, Carson Williams. So I think it's just a case of, falling too far down the depth chart. And I see him, as a last man on the bench, quad A player. Honestly, I don't see much more than that.
The name, just because it has some recognition, because we've seen him, it was like, oh, wow, he did. But you look at his numbers. I mean, he hit 218 with a 587 OPS in the majors. And then it wasn't like he, scorched in AAA last year. In 66 games, he batted 248 with a 293 on base and a 336 slugging. It just didn't happen. Now, hopefully, he does get to do that Xavier Edwards path and get straight into a place that can have the time and space and playing time for him. Good. And he can go off. I hope so. But really, it was to be, especially not only Carson, like you mentioned, not only Kim, but then also Jose Caballero. I mean, so how many middle infield types can you really carry in a baseball team? So I really think that it had to be Basabe.
Right, 100%. So, and with Faedo, just touching on his numbers a little bit, he did post a 3.61 ERA with 55 strikeouts and 28 walks and 57 1/3 innings over 37 appearances last year, including 6 outings as an opener. So maybe that is the golden ticket, is just utilize him, or not just utilize him, but he is okay and fine with being an opener. And maybe that's something that the Rays incorporate with him or others a little bit more into 2025. And I guess maybe you do have to get creative if you're playing at Steinbrenner Field and there's the risk of rain delays, and you've got the travel considerations of just keeping guys fresh and using a lot of bodies out there day in and day out.
It's McClanahan to start the game, but there's some clouds out there. We're gonna play for like a little bit, and then they're gonna, how about Faedo get up there and do an opener, and then we get Shane McClanahan instead on the second inning to get things got done. That sounds good.
That might be it. Yep. All right, and we hope he thrives. He's has a lot. There's been a lot of press covered on Faedo and his connections to the area. We do have another topic to get to. But first, Ulises, I think we need to tell the audience something else important here.
Yes, we do. And that's Game Time. We've told you about Game Time. It's amazing to use. Super simple, because guess what? They make it super simple for you. You can get tickets for any type of event. And with the NFL playoffs, that can be an unforgettable experience. If you're into that, okay? It brings fans together, and you can use Game Time to get some tickets. In fact, they have a feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier, as it filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats. So today, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
All right. Something else of note here. The PECOTA projections for 2025 have been unveiled. And for anybody that doesn't know, just a quick history and definition here. PECOTA stands for Player Empirical Comparison and Optimization Test Algorithm. It's a data-driven projection system developed by Baseball Prospectus. It uses historical player data, advanced metrics, and predictive modeling to estimate individual and team performance for the upcoming season. And with that, the findings on win totals and so on were put forth. And your Tampa Bay Rays, based on PECOTA, are projected to finish 4th in the division with a win-loss record of 81.9 wins and 80.1 losses. So we rounded up. 82 wins, 80 losses is what the robot computer has the Rays at, which I also appreciate. It has the chance or percentage of playoff, and it has the Rays at 31.7%. So you're saying there's a chance. I'll take it.
Yeah, it's like that meme, right? Look, I think these are just fun things to talk about. I think on the timeline when people get so upset about the projections, it's like,
crazy.
bro,
Yeah.
like you're arguing against the software. Like, go ahead, put the screen down, and go outside, look up, get a little bit of that burning that you shouldn't get when you look at the sun a little bit, and you're like, oh, I'm alive. Oh, okay, that's what grass feels like. Do that, because if you're getting upset about a software, we got bigger issues here, baby. But having said that, I think 82 and 80 is kind of reasonable, right? Because we've talked about
even after the Kim signing,
even after the Kim signing, because you do have questions. Look, we love the pitching. We've just talked about that, but there are question marks. How is Shane McClanahan going to come back from Tommy John? We don't know.
Right.
How's Drew Rasmussen going to take it up, even though we did see him a little bit last year, but now the workload should be bigger, right? Is Pepio, Taj, and Boz going to take a step forward? Who's Junior Caminero, the Dominican Republic guy that just destroyed? That would be awesome. But what does his next step look like? How many games is Brandon Lau going to be playing? Is Yandy Diaz, was that first month of a slump just a beginning to show his decline? Like, there are questions. So I don't think, if any Rays fan is thinking like, 100 wins, 95 plus wins,
you got to be insane. Yeah.
I mean, dude, like, either you're getting paid to say that stuff, or you're doing it for engagement farming, or you must be the most optimistic guy, and I don't ever want to be in a room filled with fire with you.
Right. No, stay. It'll die off by itself. You're good.
It's fine. I like the heat.
It's just a warm day.
It's good to sweat. We're from Florida. Yeah.
No, I think it's about fair. I would have, again, maybe I'm just on the Hassan Kim high right now, that I would have said, okay, bump me up to 84, 85, something in that jurisdiction. But again, I think these projection systems, or at least this one in particular, is, maybe unfavorable to everybody, because in the American League, there's not one team projected to win 90 games.
Right.
And if we're just looking at past history, you would have to think at least 1, 2, maybe more are going to cross the 90 mark threshold there. So, they've just, at least with the Rays, they always undervalue the Rays too. So
yes, because they don't really know how to, add the moving parts, right? That's the whole thing. You don't know how the Rays are going to operate. But you're right. The closest one would be the Yankees at 89.7. So that's pretty close, but not there. I was impacted by this ever-loving Toronto Blue Jays. I just don't get it, man. I really just don't get it with the Blue Jays. I feel like they're the Chicago White Sox of 3 years ago.
Oh, you think they're just like crash and burn
all over? And I've said it multiple times, and you guys can just go back on the tapes. I've been saying this for like 3 years now. The Toronto Blue Jays are good on paper, but they're not going to do anything, man. And I get it. Santander, boom. I'm jealous. Yeah. Okay, definitely jealous. They've made some nice additions, but I feel like if it were flipped in the projections, where Tampa is actually at 84.5 wins and Toronto is at 81.9, I think that would be I think that would be okay. I think that would be fair.
I agree. I think that would be more in line. So are you going as far to say that Toronto would be the worst team in the division, or Boston should still stay at number 5? Or it's kind of a crapshoot between, I know we've said this or alluded to it previously, was like you pretty much have 2 tiers in the AL list right now. It's Yankees, Baltimore, and then everybody else. You slap the Blue Jays, the Rays, and the Red Sox in a bucket and by a couple games, and then somebody's got to hopefully swim to the top and get third place.
You're putting those 3 teams in a barrel, and they're going to have to fight to the death, and whoever's less bloody is going to be a wild card team. That's really it. I don't think it's going to happen again where the AL Central reigns supreme in the American League. But if we are being honest, this offseason has been very slow for the American League, incredibly slow for the American League. The National League,
Dodgers are taking everybody. I think that the Dodgers were projected at like 103 games, which is like, to me, is like insanely low. Like I'm expecting them to, go 115 or 118 and something, but that's neither here nor there. So we just wanted to bring up the PECOTA projections. And again, I think the Rays are, when it's all said and done, can be a little bit better than 82 and 80, but there's a lot of ifs involved. If guys can stay healthy, if guys can live up to potential, if and when, not if and when, but how late in the game return to the big leagues, and will there kind of be a curve of him getting, back up to speed, and then you have the whole playing in Sambrano Field and the travel considerations. Rookies, there's a lot at play there. So just wanted to throw all that out there, but put it in the comments what you think about the Rays projections by PECOTA. In the meantime, we hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you later.